Guys, this should be a really quick lesson. This is going to be on PHP functions. We went over functions in JavaScript, and they're not much different in PHP. So what we need to do is go into our htdocs folder, which is our web folder, and I'm going to create a new file, a new folder called S5. Okay, so let's go to that in our browser. Okay, we have nothing there, so let's create an index.php file, and I can open this in Notepad++. And so let's create a very simple function. So we need our PHP tags, and we'll say function say hello. And as we know, we can use echo to print out to the screen. So we're just going to print out hello. Now this isn't going to do anything. If we go and reload, we don't see anything because we haven't called it. And to call it, we simply just have to write the name of the function with parentheses. Whoop. And no S. Alright, and I think I did this in the JavaScript, but we can add a parameter. We'll say it, and it'll take one parameter of word. So down here, well, gotta get rid of that. Down here we can say it, and we can put in a string here. Let's just put hello world. Okay, we can save that, and now we get hello world. Now we can have more than one parameter, so let's give this another one of word. So what we're going to do is echo the first word and then the last word right after it. So let's concatenate a space in between the two. This will be word 2. So let's put in 2 parameters. So these are going to be 2 strings that are separated by a comma. And the first one, let's say hello. And the next one, we'll say world. Undefined variable, word 2. Say it. Let's see, echo word 1. Oh, let's change this to, we gotta have word 1 and word 2. Sorry about that. Alright, so now we have word 1 and word 2. Now, what if the person only puts in the first parameter? We get an error that's telling us that we're missing an argument. And an argument is just another word for parameter. So what we need to do is we need to create a default value for this, for the second parameter. And I showed you how to do that in JavaScript, and we put like a conditional that said echo word 1, and if it's not there, then echo the next word, or document.write a default word. So in PHP it's a little bit simpler. All we need to do is make this equal something. So a default will be world. Alright, so we can save this and we reload now, and it's given us our default word. Now what if we do enter the second parameter? If we do, let's say the next parameter will be Brad. That will overwrite the default parameter and give us Brad. Alright, so if we get rid of that, it goes back to world. Alright, so let's do a simple mathematical function. So let's call this function add, and it's going to take 2 numbers and all it's going to do is it's going to echo out num1 plus num2. So down here we can say add, and let's say 7 and 2. Now we don't need quotes because these are numbers, these are integers that are going to have, we're going to do arithmetic with these integers, so there's no quotes. So if we save that, reload, we get 9. Now a lot of times most of the time you don't want to output from your function. Okay, you don't want to have an echo inside of a function. Most times it's just bad practice. So what you would want to do usually in a case like this is you want to use return. Alright, so if we do this and we save, we get nothing. Return doesn't print it out on the screen, it just returns a value. So we can echo the actual function like this, and then we get our answer. Alright, so that's basic functions. I want to show you a couple other things in this section, and one of them is, you've seen it before, we've used the include function to actually include another PHP file. Well, we can also use require, and we can also use require once. So first we're going to go over include. So let's go to our S5 folder and create a new file and call it functions.php. And I want to open this up, and I want to take this. Now you might notice we don't have an ending PHP tag, but we don't need to. It's not needed. So I'm going to save this. Now I'm going to get rid of the inline function, and if I save this and reload, obviously I'm getting an error because I'm calling a function add, and we haven't declared this in this file, and we haven't linked any other files. So what we need to do is link the functions file, and we do that with include. So we can say include functions.php. Alright, so if we reload, now we get our 9. Now we can also use require. Okay, and we can also use require once. They all work. Now the biggest difference with these is how it handles errors, or how it handles if it can't find this file. If you use include, then if it can't find the file, the rest of the script will still go on. Alright, if you use require and it can't find the file, then the entire script halts and you'll just get an error. And I want to show you this real quick. So up here we're going to say include functions.php, and in my index.php all I'm going to do is echo out something. So I'm going to say I am in index.php. Alright, so I'm going to save, and in my functions file I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to say echo I am in functions.php. Okay, so if we reload, and actually I'm going to put a BR tag. If I reload, I have these two strings which are in different files. Now with include, let's do this. Let's change this to functions1. Alright, so it's looking for functions1, which is not there. It's not in my structure. All I have is index and functions. So if I save this and we go back and reload, you can see we get an error that says it can't find the file, but you can see this string is still echoing out. So my index.php is continuing even though that the include can't find functions1. Okay, so now if we change this to require and we save and reload, it gives us the error, and everything stops. The rest of index.php doesn't continue. So that's the main difference between include and require. So what I want to do now is, we've talked about how to create functions and run them. I just want to quickly go through some of the common functions in PHP, functions that are here by default that we can use. Usually there's a lot of string and array functions that we can use in PHP. So I'm going to get rid of this. And the first one I want to talk about is string replace. And it's str underscore replace. And what this function does is it takes a string as a parameter, as well as the word or phrase that you're trying to replace, and then what you want to replace it with. So to give you an example, I'm going to create a variable called phrase, and I'm just going to write, I like to eat apples. Okay, so we have this string. Now, what if we want to change this to I like to eat oranges? String replace would be a perfect method to do this with. So we can actually redeclare the variable, and instead of just typing the text, we're going to say str replace, and it takes 3 parameters. The first one is what you want to find. So in this case, it's apples. The second one is what you want to replace it with. In this case is oranges. And then finally we need the actual string, which is in the variable phrase. Okay, so now if we come back and we echo phrase, actually let me show you without this first. Let me just cut that out. So we'll save that. And now we see I like to eat apples. If I put that string replace function back and save, then it's going to change to I like to eat oranges. So this is a really handy function, especially when you're dealing with generated content. Alright, so now I want to show you a function, well, 2 functions actually. One is called implode and one is called explode, and they have to do with arrays. So I'm going to comment this out right now. And actually, I'm not sure if we went over commenting in PHP. It's really easy. If we want to comment out one line, we use the /. If we want to comment out more than one, we can use the / and the asterisk. And then wherever we want to end it, we want the asterisk and the /. So the asterisk should always be touching the content. Alright, so pretty easy. Yeah, okay, so like I said, implode and explode. So what I want to do here is create an array. And I'm going to call it name array. And it's just going to be equal to just a bunch of names. Say Brad, Bob, Mike. Whoops, forgot a quote here. Remember, these are all strings, so they're going to have quotes. And we'll say Michelle. Alright, so we have an array here, and I'm not sure if I went over print r either, but print r is what we want to use if we want to print out an array into the browser. So we can say print r name array. If we save that and reload, we can see our entire array. We can see the key, or then in this case the numeric value, in the value, which is the names. So it's really handy to actually see your array in retrospect and see what's going on. But I'm going to comment that out. And what I want to do is I want to take these array values and make them a string. So I want to be able to echo them out and have this echo out. Okay, so if we try to echo an array, we get this array string to conversion, and then we just get array. So we don't see anything, any value when we echo it out. So we don't want to do that. What we can do is, let's make another variable called name string. And we want to implode this string. So when you think of implode, just think of, you have a string and then something squishing them together and imploding them into an array. Okay, I mean, at least that's what I have in my head. They may not make sense in yours, but that's how I remember it. Now when we implode an array, it takes two parameters. The first one is, what do we want to separate each value? So we need to put this in quotes, and let's just say we want them separated with a comma. All right. So the next parameter, so I'm putting this comma here so that we can put in the next parameter, which is the array. So in this case, it's name array. So now if we come down and echo out name string, we can save that, and it's printing out, it's echoing out all the names, and you can see they're separated by a comma. If we want to add a space there, we can do that. If we want nothing there, just a space, no comma, we can do that. And then say we want them on a separate line, we can put a BR tag. So we can manipulate arrays and strings pretty well with these kinds of functions. So the next thing, we went over implode, so now let's do explode. And as you probably have guessed, explode is the opposite. We're taking a string and we're making it into an array. So I'm going to print out, I'm going to comment out this echo, and I'm going to create a new array. I'm going to create a string first. So let's say car string equals, and a string needs to be in quotes. So let's just say Toyota, Ford, Nissan, Dodge, Kia, and Mazda. All right. Oh, we need sorry, I don't need those quotes. All right, so we have our car string with 6 different makes of cars. So we can print this out with echo car string, and that's just going to print out the string we have. But we want to add these values into an array. So let's create a new variable called car array, and we want to equal that to explode. And this is going to take 3 parameters. The first parameter is how we want to get these values, what we want to split them apart. In this case is going to be a comma. Alright, so we want Toyota, and then the comma separates Ford, and then the comma separates Nissan. So that's how we're getting our values. And the next parameter is going to be the string, so it's going to be car string. And I think I said we needed 3 parameters, but in this case I think we only need the 2. Okay, so now we have an array. We can print that out with print r. So now you can see we have a numeric array that has our values in each position, in each value slot. So that can be very powerful when you're developing with PHP. Let's see, so some other ones. We have some arrays that can manipulate strings like UC words. So let's say echo UC words and wrap that around, let's say, hello world in all lowercase. And if we save it and reload, we can see that the UC words function capitalizes every word. We could also say another function would be string to lower, and that does the opposite. Let's say hello world in caps. Save that, reload, and we get it all in lowercase. So these are very handy when dealing with generated content. We also have, there's a whole slew of functions for arrays as well. You already saw count. So let's say we want to echo out the count of car array. Let me just delete that. So if we echo that out, we get 6 because we have 6 cars in the array. Another handy function for arrays is sort. So we can say sort car array, and then if we print our car array, you can see that it's now in alphabetical order. Here we started with Toyota, Ford, Nissan. Here we're saying Dodge, Ford, Kia. So it's in alphabetical order. So you can sort that way. You can sort by number values. There's all different kinds of ways you can deal with and sort arrays. And I really suggest going to php.net because every imaginable function and functionality of PHP is described in depth on that site. So there's some really great documentation. Maybe join some PHP based forums. Just really dive in because there's just a ton that you can do in PHP. Next we'll be getting into databases, specifically MySQL, because PHP and MySQL work so well together. So that's it for this tutorial. I hope you learned something, and I'll see you in the next